So, good afternoon. Thank you for being here. It hasn't gone unnoticed that there is a great deal of attention on our public schools and the success of their students. Missouri's lack of spending on education has put us second to last on money spent per pupil in the United States. Even after a hard-fought raise for Missouri teachers, they're still the lowest paid in the country. The legislature has fallen short of our constitutional mandate as stewards of public education. Years have gone by with these circumstances only getting worse, as staffing and facility management are hitting their breaking points in many districts. And instead of righting the ship, our legislature has moved towards so-called alternatives in education. These schemes offer no proven effectiveness compared to public schools and ultimately put our tax dollars in private coffers. Our current charter school system provides example of just such a scheme. It is a drain on public school resources, and it has offered little to no success in students achieving the standards set forth for successful education. While charter schools can be an innovative idea, they must be held accountable to local parents and meet the same minimum standards that any public school is held accountable for under law and regulation, including stewardship of our tax dollars. That is why I filed House Bill 2847. This bill will put decision-making about charters back in the hands of local districts and state school board. This bill holds charters to the same standards of enrollment and success as any other public school. It will provide efficiency and cost savings in administrative costs alone by removing duplicative administration by the Charter Commission, which has no members from areas with operating charter schools and has an executive director with a salary higher than that of our governor, a stellar example of government waste. I'm asking this bill be referred to the Committee on Government Efficiency and Downsizing for a hearing to discuss these ideas. I wish to allow some further comments before any questions. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Byron Clemens. I'm with the American Federation of Teachers St. Louis. You know, really this bill, HB 2847, is about democracy and accountability. That's what this is really all about. And frankly, if this bill is passed and signed into law, it's going to be good for charter schools and it'll be good for public education in the state of Missouri. Right now, I think most people do not know this, our late President Albert Shanker, the president of the American Federation of Teachers, championed charter schools once upon a time, but his vision of them always included accountability, listening to parents, and the educators in the classroom. That, unfortunately, has not become the case in Missouri due to the advent of the Missouri Charter School Commission, which is isolated from everything else, and frankly, it's really a department of redundancy department. It's repetitive, redundant, not necessary. Let's return the power to DESE, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, as well as the state school board. My colleague is going to talk to you a little bit about the differences between elected school boards and what we have now with the Charter School Commission, who frankly are in charge of sponsoring. I have to say, in the city of St. Louis, half of the charter schools open since the year 2000 have closed. And that's nothing to be proud of or happy about. It's just a fact. How do we make the charter schools we have more transparent and accountable and listen to the parents and the educators? Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Representative Clemens, for sponsoring this bill. I think that it's I want to highlight.
I'm sorry, your name?
My name is Patrick Charles with American Federation of Teachers. I want to highlight 2 points that Representative Clemens brought up. The first one is the Charter School Commission. I would hope that the representatives of our state would respect the elective process and return the power of the school choice to the elective school board. The Charter School Commission does not look like the families or students that serve the communities that charter schools are in and that I work in. Most of the time, the families don't get a choice when they can't go back to answer to that school board, to the Charter School Commission. The second point that I would like to talk about is the inefficiencies of the Charter School Commission. The chairman of the Charter School Commission, who lives in St. Louis, makes more than the governor of the state of Missouri, and there are many rungs of administrative costs below her that are paid over $100,000 a year, which adds to the cost of the Charter School Commission. So thank you, Representative Clemens.
We'll take any questions for any of us.
Can you speak to some of the rhetoric by some of the Republican candidates for governor, for example, who want to eliminate DESE and who would describe the state public education system as, they would describe it as a failure, that we need to look for alternatives rather than, keep it with the public education model as is. Can you speak to sort of that rhetoric?
I'll be incredibly blunt about that. It is a failure, if any note, caused by this body. 20 years of Republican-led government, that's all three branches of government, has put our educational system where it is. It's underfunded, understaffed. As I said in my comments earlier, we're the lowest in the nation for our priorities of funding. Education alternatives all seem to carry a price tag where our tax dollars wind up in some privateer's pocket. That, I think, is the relationship we have there. As our responsibility is to public education, and an elected official's responsibility seems to be to their campaign account.
Question for either of you, and can you speak to charter schools in general as a concept, how they take a portion of public funds, but also should education be run like a business? What are your thoughts on that as a model?
So the original concept, I mentioned Albert Shanker before with the American Federation of Teachers, who came up with the idea of charter schools. They would be independent educational laboratories, a lab. And so if you had an idea, let's say small class size, and tried it out in a charter school, and you could show that it had efficacy, that it worked, then you would replicate it in all other schools. It wasn't going to be some privatized idea that you replicated only in your charter school. About it being a business model versus an education model, most people still in the United States of America are educated by public education, regular, normal public school districts. And there's a good reason for that, and it's about democracy and accountability. If things are wrong in a school district, you have an elected school board that you can redress it with. That is not the case currently with charter schools in Missouri. And we're not against charter schools per se. We just want to see them accountable and transparent.
I think you said recently in committee your relation. Can you clarify that again?
Say that one more time.
How are you guys related again?
She's asking it. Just say it.
This is my older brother.
You said it in committee before.
No, it's true. We're brothers. And we still have similar passions for public education, democracy, accountability, and transparency. Thanks for asking.
You had a question, Griffin?
I want to ask, you mentioned education, the charter school as a lab. Can you talk about, does that make the students who go to charter schools lab rats? I mean, essentially, because you're trying out an educational formula that could ultimately fail, and that kid doesn't get that time back. That's kind of what I'm saying.
It's hard to address that specific question, but I'll give a shot at it. All schools right now are struggling over funding, struggling to maintain certified, qualified teachers in the classroom. This is nationwide, and so it's a common struggle. But when some entities want to pit charter schools versus public schools in general, that's not a good path for us all. You won't hear me say failing charter schools, even when I said half of them have closed since the year 2000 in the city of St. Louis, which is a fact. I don't say they're failing schools or that the students are failing. You'll hear that from some other people. If they're going to be charter schools, we want them to be the best charter schools they can be. And the way to do that is democratize them, have elected school boards with parents and meet the same accountability standards that elected school boards and school districts have. This is not difficult. It should be easy to do. And it helps make the government more efficient to remove the Department of Redundancy department.
Last question for me. Is there
Okay.
any concern that this will disincentivize people from starting charter schools, or is that a good thing?
Right now, as I mentioned earlier, some schools have closed, some have opened. That's part of the issue about planning the future. Do we just open and close schools? So in the city of St. Louis, for example, the Board of Aldermen voted for a moratorium on new schools, which is not being honored by the Charter School Commission, I just happen to say. So the idea of opening and closing schools continually just makes it more chaotic, and that's not good for any of us.
So there should be kind of like a higher bar for opening a school, like more.
And absolutely, there should be.
Okay, gotcha.
So you can open charter schools. If I'm correct,
Please, get to the microphone.
you can still open charter schools through the Board of Education or through a university. That's not changing. But you would have to go through elected officials in order to do so, not opening it if you just got a couple signatures, gave out some iPads, and were opening your charter schools because the latest thing was helicoptered into a community that was not asking for this particular charter school, as we're seeing in the city of St. Louis.
I do want to respond. So you ask if it would disincentivize people participating in charter programs. I think that we've lost our way in what a charter program is. I think it was well defined by my brother, actually. A charter school is designed for experimental ideas in education. And if they work, they're supposed to go out to the rest of public schools. That's not how our system's working right now. And perhaps we need to have the right people who have a relationship in the community, people who have a relationship with local electeds, local parents, local professors and universities, be the ones to get behind charter schools instead of a corporation in another state.